Ladies and gentlemen, we are officially 1 month away from the 2024 NFL Draft. We're going to find out which player becomes a Philadelphia Eagle in the first round. And today, what a better way to get it kicked off than to react to some mock drafts. That's right. Our writers here at A to Z Sports put together an entire mock draft. I have not seen it yet, so I am going to react to it live, and we will talk about who they think the Eagles are going to pick. We'll look at some of the NFL experts in terms of the mainstream media, who they think the Eagles are going to pick, and we will talk about what we believe, are the main areas to address with this team. So I'm excited to get into it, man. But first off, can you believe this? The NFL actually banned the hip drop tackle today. The competition committee was unanimous. A lot of people are going up in flames. They're frustrated. I am frustrated, but I'm also just very confused. You know what I mean? Like, you can't grab at the hips. Like, how are you supposed to tackle? Tackling is already hard enough. Covering these all-star Pro Bowl receivers who, are some of the best talents we've ever seen in the game. Guys that can make all kinds of circus catches. And now, in terms of the running backs, shout out to the Eagles for getting Saquon Barkley. How are you going to tackle this guy? How are you going to tackle Derrick Henry or whoever else it is? Very, very surprising in my opinion. And I just think the game's going to get even harder for defenses going forward. So maybe the Eagles will have to add in more ammunition. We will talk about that. But how do you feel about this new rule change? Give me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And of course, welcome into A to Z Philly. Do us a favor and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the coverage. We will be breaking it down from every angle and giving you the Eagles news that you need. Before we jump into the mock draft, let me give a quick shout out to our great partner of today's video, and that is BetMGM. Enjoy your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up with the code ATOZPA and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. So find out why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Sign up today, use our code ATOZPA, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. Drop a comment right now. Who do you think the Eagles are going to draft? Or maybe you haven't done, a ton of draft research yet. What position do you think is most crucial? Do you have a feeling that Howie Roseman will lean towards in the draft? I'm going to be completely honest, and we will hop into the mock draft here. Again, you can check this out on atozsports.com. All of their great beat writers put this out, an entire article talking about each team and who they think they're going to pick. And, they have people from every city, right? So this is the best analysis right here, the best insight you can get. I'll be completely honest. I think that what they put in here is going to be defensive line or offensive line. If they know Howie Roseman and they know the Eagles, Howie always looks to address the trenches. Now, I will say one factor kind of sits in the balance and could really weigh this decision, and that is whether Hassan Reddick will be traded or not. We've seen some trades happen over the last couple weeks. Let's be honest, the compensation is not really equaling the level of talent or the level of performance for some of these players like Brian Burns and Snead, etc. So will Hassan Reddick get traded? If he gets moved before the draft or during the draft, I really think the Eagles are going to draft defensive line, and I think they're going to add into what they already did by signing Bryce Huff. It's what Howie always does. He has guys on top of guys, waiting in the trenches, waiting in the rafters, waiting in the tunnel to come out here and jump on an opportunity. So I think they're going to put defensive line in this draft, but once again, check this out. We can go through every pick. Obviously, Caleb Williams. Then they got Jaden Daniels, of course, and then Drake May. Obviously the top couple quarterbacks. There's still McCarthy to, be thrown into that mix as well. But let's go ahead and go down. Miami, number 20. There it is, number 22. And they have them taking Nate Wiggins, a cornerback, out of Clemson. What I do agree with here is that Howie's going to target one of the big schools or, at least one of the programs that have won in recent memory. That has been his philosophy, his strategy for the last several years, whether it's Bama or, Clemson, LSU, whatever it is. He always seems to go. Georgia, of course, the Bulldogs. He goes for these big programs. And I do think he will target one of these schools again. But Nate Wiggins, interesting, a corner, even though the Eagles do have Big Play Slight and James Bradbury, who they need to get back on track. They signed a couple guys who could fight for a spot, whether it's at nickel corner or outside. Obviously, they brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, so I do feel like they would have went safety here, but after that signing, maybe they do go with a corner, a guy that they can develop, depending on what happens with Bradbury. Maybe he's not ready to go, in week one, and the Eagles say, okay, let's go ahead and start a rookie. But let's see what they say here. Analysis: the Eagles' pass defense ranked among the worst last season. Very true. They did some bolstering in free agency by signing a familiar face in C.J. Gardner-Johnson and a highly touted depth piece in Tyler Hall, but they still need a young and talented playmaker to round out the group. That's where Nate Wiggins comes in. He has the height, he has the speed, and the versatile coverage skills where he can come to Philly and make an immediate impact. Shout out to Kelsey Kramer. Look, I don't disagree with anything that she said. I just think people don't realize or remember that James Bradbury is making a lot of coin this upcoming season. And Howie Roseman reiterated at the meetings last time, what was it, a couple weeks ago, that they're going to try to roll with Bradbury. It's too much of an expensive, cost towards the cap, towards the team that will hinge this team, to go out and cut him or try to move him. And nobody really wants to trade for him right now. So I think they're going to bring back Bradbury. Maybe they do draft a corner, that can sit behind him. And if things go south again, maybe they go and fire away with another corner. So here are Nate Wiggins' stats over his 3 years in college. He had, 28 total tackles this last year. He had 6 pass deflections, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, and he had 2 interceptions. And then when we go over to his draft combine profile, I was just looking through it here, and he ran a 4.28 40-yard dash. Total scores an 83, 6'1", 173 pounds. And he is from Atlanta, Georgia. He's a junior. Obviously, he only played 3 years. But, some of the strengths here do sound promising. His long frame, smooth backpedaling, nice footwork. But they do say here in the weaknesses that he does face guard deep balls. He leaves too much catch clearance sometimes for the target. And he does sometimes allow too much cushion, allowed in off-man coverage. Awareness and effort was disappointing. So I do think those are things that can be worked on in terms of technique and scheme and better coaching. But at the end of the day, some of the strengths here, instinctiveness with ability to read clues, that's something that's hard to teach. Hips on a swivel, feet in balance, outstanding feel for the rhythm. So you always want a guy that kind of has that intangible feel for the game. I always say this when it comes especially to the NFL draft with how many guys get drafted. It's hard to pinpoint sometimes. I like to look at characteristics of the player as well, like what's their attitude like? And that's why something that little bit, concerning here says sources tell us, quote, from an NFC national scout, he has better physical talent than Devon Witherspoon, which is great, but he doesn't have the same level of dog in him. That's probably the biggest difference right now. I think Wiggins is the better prospect though. So, you got to hope that bringing him into a system like Philadelphia that's ready to win now, with guys who have been all pro corners, is a place where, he can get motivated to play and he can learn to love the game and be one of those guys, especially if he has that physical talent. But, it is hard to teach. And if it doesn't show up, if it doesn't appear early, that is definitely a huge warning sign. And lastly, I just wanted to look through some of, the experts around the mainstream media and see what they had to say in terms of who the Eagles are picking. Again, I have not looked at this at all. Let's go here. NFL.com, Daniel Jeremiah, who covers the Birds, landing a talented corner. So the same guy, right? Yeah, Nate Wiggins, pick number 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. Nate Wiggins, a junior corner out of Clemson. Eagles' pass defense was atrocious. Wiggins is the most natural cover man in this year's draft, which is beauty to my ears, especially, like they said, with how bad the Eagles were. Let's see what ESPN says. Mel Kiper has Philadelphia landing Clemson, Nate Wiggins. So I guess we're in consensus here. I guess everybody agrees. Wait, I think we have somebody else. The Athletic, Brooks Cabina says Philadelphia adds a versatile cornerback out of Iowa. Cooper DeJean, Iowa cornerback. Cornerback remains the only major need the Eagles have not addressed in free agency. I would not agree with that. I don't know why people are just overlooking the linebacker position. I know they addressed it a bit, but I still think there is a huge hole there. I think defensive line could have a gaping hole, which is why I predicted it would be D-line, especially with Howie's philosophy and the fact that Hassan Reddick could be traded. So, I just think there are a few more holes. I think this team has done a great job in free agency, but I do think some things have to be addressed. Let's see here. Who's the CBS Sports has the Eagles landing an edge rusher? Thank you. I thought I was going nuts here. I thought I was going insane. Somebody knows the Eagles and what they like to do. Edge rusher out of Florida State, 6'4", 260 pounds, Jared Verse. So it says if Philly is motivated to move on from Josh Sweat, which he already re-signed. So I guess this is old, but yeah, here it says Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith are not exactly expected to hold up against the run. Or Hassan Reddick might actually be traded and he's not going to be here. So we'll look at one more. PFF has Philly trading the picks, 22 and 53 to Denver for pick 12 and a 2025 third round pick. With the pick, the Eagles land Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. Philly, which has always looked ahead when it comes to building in the trenches, exactly, could draft a player like Fuaga, who could start at guard early on and then kick out to right tackle when Lane Johnson retires. So this would be for an offensive lineman. So, I'm not going crazy. There are a couple people who say they could address the trenches, which I think is, for sure a definite possibility, or they could go for the secondary and, try to address what could be a concern if James Bradbury starts to flame up early in the season. But with that being said, give me your thoughts down below. Where do you think the Eagles should look in the draft? Appreciate everybody tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.